Obviously, the big news today is that Barack Obama got up and announced that our troops are leaving Iraq by year's end. And he's up there saying, this is the deal we made in 2008. This is what I promised back there. No, it isn't. He promised he would do this the first thing when he got to the White House, not the last thing just before he's ready to lose another election here. And in any event, there's a couple of ways to look at this. First of all, I will believe it when I see it, because we have been told the war was going to be over and the troops are going to come home several times before. And I'm not really going to get excited about another announcement of what Obama is going to do some point in the future, because all he's really done is uncork the bottle of wine. He hasn't poured you any wine. He's just hoping you're going to get drunk on the smell of the cork. Okay? Now, the real issue is, it isn't a case of the United States wanting the troops to come home. Iraq is kicking them out. Iraq has said after the end of the year, there will be no more immunity for war crimes prosecutions for the troops remaining inside Iraq. They're going to be arrested and charged and sentenced and punished for some of the stuff they've been doing in Iraq. In fact, Iraq's new government has said any troops remaining in Iraq after the end of the year may be arrested just because they're not supposed to be there. That there will be force directed against any remaining Americans. In other words, Obama isn't bringing the troops home. We're being kicked out. The new government of Iraq is kicking us out. If that immunity deal would go through, Obama would keep the troops there. And there may already be this little maneuver going on to force that issue. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to basically give you the bad news right now. Because from where I sit, the United States just lost the war in Iraq. We never got Saddam's nuclear weapons because there weren't any. We did not revenge 9/11 because Iraq had nothing to do with it. And we have video of President Bush saying they had nothing to do with it. We did not punish Iraq for supporting al-Qaeda because Saddam and al-Qaeda were enemies. Saddam had pretty much the only secular government in the region, and al-Qaeda favors theocratic rule, or at least whoever al-Qaeda thinks they are running around that week. And even the oil that we were told was going to be a huge, huge plus, we didn't even get a whole heck of a lot of that, because the new government of Iraq is made up of people the United States tortured, or it's made up of people who know people the United States tortured. They don't like us. They do not like us. They want us to go home. And that's basically where that whole situation is. And so the oil contracts went out to other countries. What little oil the United States got from Iraq, they burned up inside all the tanks and trucks for this whole war. So it's a complete disaster. There's really nothing that you can look at and claim that there was any kind of a win for the United States. Yeah, a win for Israel. Another one of their enemies got smashed up. And yeah, we went into a country, we grabbed their head of state, and we murdered them. Just because to prove that we could do it. You know, like Hillary Clinton running around today laughing about how they got Gaddafi. We came, we saw, he died. All she's missing is her broomstick. Yeah, mission accomplished here. The only real winners on this whole mess are the bankers, to whom both sides are now deeply in debt. I guess that makes it all worth it. Now, the new development, just before we went to airtime. The new development is that there has been a major incursion, something like 10,000 Turkish troops at the border to northern Iraq. The Kurdish malcontents, whatever, have been flooding into Iraq for a very, very long time. And they're causing a lot of problem. And I noticed after Turkey complained about Israel's killing their aid workers in international waters, all of a sudden the Kurdish rebels seem to be getting a lot of new weapons and ammunition they didn't have before. So this situation's been kind of ignored and fanned along. We know CIA is operating up there to fan this thing up. So now there's this major Turkish incursion into northern Iraq. And this has nothing to do with the Kurds, and it's got nothing to do with Turkey. This is Obama's tactic to scare the new government in Iraq into reversing their previous stance on immunity. All these Turks are going to be coming across the border, and Obama's going to say, if you'll give us immunity, we'll stay and keep you safe from those Turks. So that's what's going on. I don't think we're going to see our kids home for Christmas. They may be home for a temporary stay, a couple of weeks, hang out with the family. Then they're either going to go back to Iraq or they're going to ship out to one of these other countries we're invading, like Pakistan. Apparently, Hillary's message to Pakistan was, do what we tell you to do or we're going to invade. Words to that effect. And, of course, behind it all is this continuing push for Iran because, gosh darn it, every used car salesman in America is a potential terrorist on behalf of Ahmadinejad. So we got to go kill them before they kill us. Same excuse that Hitler used at Gleiwitz. So this is big game playing. I think Occupy America really sent a message that the American people are on the verge of wanting to change the government. And so this war machine, this ravening, bloodlust, crazed, greed-driven, money junkie, power junkie, war junkie tumor on the nation's capital has thrown the war machine into overdrive or afterburner or whatever you want to call it. They've got that pedal to the metal, and they're going to try and get World War III going for real. Full tilt boogie rock and roll for truth, justice, and what we used to call the American way. Because they're afraid they're going to lose the whole thing. And if they don't carry it through to completion and success, they're going to lose everything because they have literally bet the farm. They've bet the entire nation on this endless war, this project for the new American century, which sounds like the 1,000-year Reich. We've heard all this crap before. It didn't work for the Germans. It's not working for the American people. We're going to lose this one, is the bottom line here. So, yeah, they're pushing this thing. They're going to do whatever it takes to get World War III going for real. Then they're going to grab your kids, put them in uniforms, give them rifles, and send them off to breathe depleted uranium dust. The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, Mike, what's your take on China and Russia in all the scenario that's playing out now with the globalization, the New World Order, and everything that Obama's doing? I'd just like your opinion on that, and I'll hang up.
Okay, well, my opinion right now is that China and Russia have been going the appeasement route, just saying, well, if we let the U.S. do this and do that, maybe they'll calm down and that'll be enough for them to save their economy, and they'll leave us alone, which was the mistake that Neville Chamberlain made with Adolf Hitler last century. And I think Russia and China are coming to understand that appeasement is not going to work here, that you've got the United States that is hopelessly under the control of Israel. And, you know, Israel just has this button they push, and American kids go out to fight their wars for them. So the Israelis don't have to go to funerals for their own kids. And when you've got a system like that, you're going to go on pushing that button. It doesn't cost Israel anything to push that button. Push the button, boom, Afghanistan. Push the button, boom, Iraq. Push the button, boom, wherever else they're going. I've lost count of the number of wars we have out there. And I think Russia and China understand that this is what's going on. Now, the reason to be very concerned at the moment is because of the development in Pakistan, where the U.S. is talking about unilaterally invading Pakistan, supposedly to hunt militants and terrorists, which is absolutely nonsense. Pakistan's a nuclear power, and they've got missiles to carry those nuclear weapons considerable distances. So the invasion of Pakistan is literally going to be a blitzkrieg, and it's not going to be about terrorism. It's going to be about encircling Iran, because Iran and Russia have a mutual defense pact. And the one thing that the United States cannot afford to do is invade Iran while Russia is able to supply them. So they got to cut off the air corridors around there. They've got to make sure there's another war over in Ossetia to close down those tunnels coming through the Caucasus Mountains. They're already in control of Afghanistan, which is major highways and pipelines coming down from Russia into Iran. Now they're going to grab Pakistan to make sure that they can isolate Iran from Russia and China along that whole eastern edge. And that's the real goal here. And once Pakistan has been brought under control, the war on Iran is going to crank up for real. And somewhere along the line, Russia and China are going to say, all right, we have to get involved, because Israel is not going to stop sending out the Americans to kill everybody they don't like, and they're not really friends with us. Remember, Israel has not been happy with Russia ever since the fall of the Soviet Union, And Russia kicked the oligarchs out, sent them all back to Israel. And they've been whining and crying about those lost billions of rubles ever since. And Israelis are not very forgiving when you take their money. Or you refuse to let them go on taking your money. More to the point here. So I think Russia and China have been sort of biding their time, as it were, hoping that the United States would exhaust itself in its ongoing wars, which it pretty much has. Our manpower is drawn down, our materiel, our war materiel has been drawn down. That's what's really scary about it. To take these wars any further, they're going to have to rely on tactical nuclear weapons, which we know back in the Bush administration, they started building a whole new generation of these battlefield nukes. They're going to use them. They're going to use them because for all this talk about Iran and Iraq and all these other nuclear nations, there's only one nation that has ever actually dropped an atomic bomb on the civilians of another country, and that's the United States. And they did it twice. So, yeah, we're heading, unless we can stop the war from within the United States of America, this thing is going to go all the way to its very bloody and violent end. There will be billions dead. The bankers will be celebrating because the entire world will be in debt to them for another 4 or 5 generations. Remember, Germany only finished paying off their debt from World War I a couple of years ago. That's when the bankers got together and said, they're getting out of debt. We can't allow that. We've got to get another world war going. Because war is good for business. Meanwhile, as if we weren't murdering enough people around the world, over in Somalia, U.S. drone attacks are intensifying. And it does seem as if the United States wishes to basically conquer all of Africa for its untapped mineral wealth, and needed to get rid of Muammar Gaddafi and the gold dinar in order to re-enslave the African nations to the International Monetary Fund and the U.S. dollar. I think somewhere down the road the U.S. government is envisioning a new version of Bretton Woods, which was the post-World War II agreement to finance the reconstruction of the world using the U.S. dollar provided by the Federal Reserve. Remember what I said before about Libya and war? You get a war going, you blow up the place. All the buildings, all the schools, all the hospitals, all the churches, all the supermarkets that were already built and paid for get destroyed. Then the people who live there have to start borrowing money to replace what they used to have that was free and clear. That's the purpose of war. Plunge them all back into debt. In order for that to work in Africa, they first had to get rid of the gold dinar, the value-based currency that Libya was going to put out as a challenge to the dollar. So at the end of World War II, with all of the industrialized nations except the United States bombed into rubble and needing to rebuild and needing to basically come to the United States for machine tools and ball bearings and all those other things, Bretton Woods basically said the dollar is the international reserve currency, it's as good as gold, and we will do all trade in the dollar, and you are required to accept it. The problem being that almost immediately thereafter, the Federal Reserve started printing up more of these, and through inflation, extracted wealth from the rest of the world. It was an imperial tax, a very clever, covert one, but that's exactly what it was. So now they're going to do the same thing to Africa again. The United States apparently is thinking that if they can conquer the entire world, they'll bring back Bretton Woods. They'll declare the dollar the global reserve currency by fiat. They'll simply kill everybody they owe money to. And life will go on, and it will be grand, and they'll build statues to us. And pigeons of the city will rejoice.